Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Bunny and welcome to my channel for the first time if you're new here. Today I am going to be doing the Reader Problems book tag. This was created by Tiffany over at About to Read. Originally, I will link to her channel down below. And this one I just randomly decided to make with like almost no planning because I was looking for book tags to do kind of just as an idea for videos. I've been in a reading slump, so I'm having trouble coming up with content a little bit. It's caused a booktube slump as well. But this one really spoke to me. So the first prompt is: you have 20,000 books on your TBR. How in the world do you decide what to read next? So this varies. It depends on my mood. Sometimes I pick my book by my mood. I'll just find a book and I want to read it. Sometimes it'll be like I'm at the store, either the bookstore or the grocery store or wherever there's books, and I'll find a book and I'll buy it and I instantly read it. Other times it's the cover speaks to me. Sometimes, a lot of the time, it's because of a TBR or something like that that helps me choose a book. The second one is: you're halfway through a book that you're just not loving it. Do you quit or are you committed? Most of the time, I am committed. That's partly because of, and I've mentioned this before, an old episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark, where there was a babysitter that brought books over to entertain the child she was babysitting, and he was a little brat, and he kept starting books and starting books and starting books, but he wouldn't finish them. And then I can't remember exactly how it happens, but something happens, and all of the monsters and stuff from the books start coming out and attacking the kid at night until he finishes the books. So I finish books now. Though I have been more forgiving of myself and my time lately. I've actually DNF'd 2 books this year. And I'm realizing that it's not really worth my time to continue spending time on something I'm not having fun with. So I think I'm going to start DNFing things more. Number 3 is: the end of the year is coming and you're so close but so far away from your Goodreads reading challenge. Do you try to catch up, and how? It depends on how far behind I am. Like, if it's like 3 months from the end of the year and I still have like 40 out of 50 books to read, I'm probably just going to hang it up and read what I want to read when I want to read and not care. But in that same time frame, like if I'm just 15 or 20 books away, then I might try to cram in a bunch of short books along with the longer books that I prefer, to try to get the goal. Right now, I'm kind of cruising pretty well because I'm like 6 books ahead on my goal, and so my reading slump isn't killing me right now. Let's see. The next prompt is: the covers of a series you love do not match. How do you cope? I don't care as much. Like, I do think it's aesthetically pleasing to see a bunch of books on a shelf that match, like all their covers match and everything. But I also kind of love that a hodgepodge homey mismatch feel too, because it means that the books weren't all bought at the same time, and there's a chance that there's a story behind how each book in the series was obtained. So it makes it a little more special to me, I think, to see mismatched books. And now there's not always a story, because, I mean, that's true of mine, because, some of my mismatched books are mismatched because I found one at the thrift store, and I got one from Thrift Books, and I got one from Barnes and Noble, and one from Walmart, and somebody gave me another one or something like that. So not every book has a story, but I kind of imagine that they do when they don't match. I'm a reader, and it is part of the way my brain works to imagine stories, so that's what I do. Let's see. The 5th prompt is: everyone and their mother loves a book that you really don't like. Who do you bond with over shared feelings? Um, no one in particular at the moment, though I do rant to my loved ones who don't necessarily read sometimes, about books that I don't like and also books that I do like. Um, I'm also making more friends on booktube and in the book community, so we can kind of rant and discuss books that way. And also, like, I find a particular enjoyment in discussing books with people who don't have the same opinion as I do, because like they can help me to appreciate parts of the book that I didn't like, and I can help them kind of see parts of the book that could have been better. So you have that back and forth that you don't necessarily get as much when you're talking to somebody who shares your exact opinions. I mean, that's fun too, but you can make a bigger discussion out of it when you're debating, like, I didn't like this character, and they're like, but this part of this character, and you're like, yeah, I mean, that's redeeming, but he was also, crap over here, and that sort of thing. So yeah, um like, I talk about it with everybody pretty much, nobody in particular. um so let's see, the next one is, you're reading a book and you were about to start crying in public. How do you deal? um I think it's pretty fair to say that, given that I am goth in the Bible Belt, I don't strictly care what people think of me. So, if I were to be reading a book and by surprise come across a scene that would make me cry, I think I'd just go with it. Though, if it's a book that I'm reasonably certain will make me cry, I tend to read it in private, just because I experience my emotions better privately. Um and also, like, sometimes when you cry it encourages people to come up to you, and I don't necessarily like strangers just coming up to me and like talking to me. And I live in the South, so it's not just coming up and talking, it's the touching and the I was a fan of social distancing before all of the virus stuff. Um Anyway, so the next one is, a sequel of a book you loved just came out, but you've forgotten a lot from the prior novel. Will you reread the book, skip the sequel, or try to find a synopsis on Goodreads, or cry in frustration? Depending on my mood and the situation, possibly all of the above. Um, I have gone back and reread books, or at least planned to. Like, I'm going to do that with the Terry Brooks Shannara series, because I can't for the life of me remember which book I left off on. And so I just randomly decided I want to go back and experience it from the beginning again. Um, Sometimes I will just skip out on it. Like, if it's one that I'm really, really not super into, then I'll leave it, and maybe I'll go back to it later, maybe I won't. Um, and in some cases, and I definitely did this with the Disney Villains series by Serena Valentino, um, I went back and looked up a synopsis for the last one I read to kind of jog my memory about what the story was, and it doesn't give away the ending, but one, you kind of know the ending with those, and two, the synopsis I read was detailed enough that it made me remember how the book went. Um, and yes, sometimes I'll just get frustrated and not know what to do, not necessarily cry, but just give up in frustration and go, whatever, I'll figure it out later. Um, and this leads into one of the other questions. Sometimes just because I buy the book immediately doesn't mean I'm going to read it immediately either. Um, so number 8 is, you do not want anyone borrowing your books. How do you politely tell people nope when they ask? My good friends don't ask questions like that. And my family doesn't ask questions like that. But on the rare chance that I do offer my books up to be borrowed, there are discussions about my rules with my books, and people probably don't borrow books from me more than once or twice, because I can be a bit annoying. I'm like, have you read it? Where's my book? You didn't crack the spine, did you? Are you dog-earing my pages? Are you using a bookmark? What are you using as a bookmark? Did you eat well, you were touching my book. That kind of thing. Because I really like my books, and I'm becoming more forgiving about damage that happens to books, but I like my books more than most people, so I like them to look nice and pretty. Um, so I don't tend to offer them out very much at all, um, even to people in my own house. um, the next one is reading ADD. You've picked up and put down 5 books in the last month. How do you get over a reading slump? Right now, I genuinely wish I knew, because we're on day 15 of June. I have read like 2 pages. Um, I just can't bring myself to read, and I'm starting now to kind of want to read again, or it's more like I want to read again, if that makes sense. But the actual act of reading, I don't know, I almost feel like I burned myself out on that form of escapism. And so I've been binge watching TV shows. Like, I finished Schitt's Creek, and I started watching The Blacklist on the recommendation of one of my customers from my job. And I'm watching She-Ra, Princess of Power, and I'm watching 13 Reasons Why, the new season, and that sort of thing. So I'm not reading as much. I think I might get there by the end of the month, but my TBR is going to be like, it's going down from like 12 books to like, my wrap up is probably going to be like, I read 5 pages and finished nothing. Um, let's see. And yeah, sometimes you just have to write it out. Sometimes I can um get through it by like finding a short book to read or something like that. There's actually a book um that somebody mentioned to me in my reading slump discussion video that I need to go and buy, that I'm going to try out. But yes, reading slumps are hard, and sometimes you just have to forgive yourself and let it and write it out. That's what I'm trying to do now, because I don't think much else is going to break this slump. Um, Number 10 is, there are so many new books coming out that you're dying to read. How many do you actually buy? So I add them all to a wish list, and I will probably buy several of them, especially now that I can do that. Um, and I will also try to get several of them from the library, either the e-library or the physical library when that's open. Um, and then others I will hope that my friends and family are nice enough to buy me from my wish lists, because pretty much all you have to do is ask me. Like, if it's time to get me a gift, if you ask me, I will provide you with my book wish list, because that's probably what I want more than anything else. Well, that and hats. I do love a good hat, as you know. Um, and let's see. Also, hair dye. I love a good color. Let's see. The last one is, after you've bought all these new books you can't wait to get to, how long do they sit on your shelf before you get to them? Somewhere between not at all and forever. Some books I read immediately after I buy them. Some of them, like some books, I buy with the intention of starting it right that second, especially with ebooks. Um, some books I have had on my shelf for literal years. And then there is a certain subset of my books that I actually read before I bought them, and so I'm buying them strictly to add to my collection, so they just never get read, because I don't do a whole lot of rereading. Um, but yeah, it depends. I read what strikes my fancy, so like, I might be in the mood to buy a book today, but because I'm reading something else, or because I have a readathon TBR planned or something like that, I can't get to it immediately, and so it'll go on the shelf, and when I get to it, I get to it. Um, that is the last question for this tag, and since this one was much less planned, much less planned than my previous video, I don't have anyone tagged in this one. So we're just going to call this one if you're watching this video and you haven't done the tag, consider yourself tagged. Um, Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and bye-bye.